Good afternoon. At the moment, Australians have a lot of dealings with major banks. And it's sometimes said that we have got the highest level of debt in the world, certainly one of the highest levels. So wouldn't it be reasonable to think that Australians deserve to have a fair and honest banking system with effective regulators? It doesn't seem to me that that's unreasonable, and it doesn't seem to me that we actually do have that situation. Because for years, business people and farmers have come to me with problems with their bankers. And people also have huge amounts of savings and superannuation with the banks. Now, if those banks are behaving badly and they're not being properly regulated, that means that the savings and superannuations may very well be at serious risk. Now, we have ASIC playing judge and jury when it should be a prosecutor. ASIC is deciding only to prosecute public companies and their directors when it thinks it can win. So that's like getting inside the mind of the judge or the jury. The fact is, we have laws. We have corporations laws, we have the criminal code, we have fair trading laws, and it's up to corporations and directors to obey those laws. And if they don't obey them, we expect the government to prosecute the companies and the directors. Here are some of the things that ASIC says. Directors are entitled to rely on what senior management tells them. Now, I don't think anyone but a fool would suggest that, because quite obviously, senior management will tell the board what works for senior management. If senior management is breaking the law, they're not going to be stupid enough to go to a board meeting and say to the directors, by the way, I thought you might like to know we're breaking the law, we're robbing customers blind, or we're laundering criminal money. So that's not going to happen. Company directors are there to direct senior management to run the company in accordance with the law. That's what the term director means. I was a company director and a fellow of the Institute of Directors in my 20s. And even then, the law was fairly strict. ASIC says it doesn't investigate corporate criminal activities. Well, if ASIC doesn't investigate the criminal activities of corporations and banks, then who does? We can't be pulling on a royal commission every year to check on the criminal activities of our listed public companies, surely to goodness. ASIC says civil matters over 6 years old can't be investigated. But we know at the rate that the public service moves, it takes 6 years for them to put a case together. So surely the period for prosecuting criminal crime ought to be infinite, or 20 or 30 or 40 years. If you have a problem with a bank loan, and you realise that the bank has been cheating you or robbing you, and I can assure you all of the big four banks have been doing that from time to time, don't bother to go to AFCA or ASIC or ACCC, because I don't think you're going to get the answers you want from those organisations. And maybe that's because the government deliberately underfunds them so that they can't do the job. AFCA is in fact controlled by the finance industry, so you couldn't expect any relief from the criminal activities of banks from them. But I don't think ASIC or ACCC are much interested in prosecuting any large corporations or their directors, and the Australian public is suffering enormously. And this is our money. This is why people don't have a lot of money other than the banks who take home $1 million a month pay packet. For Australians with superannuation savings, they need to know that the big corporations where those savings are invested are looking after them properly. And frankly, the best thing you can do if you've got superannuations is join the Australian Voters Network, which is free, because Voters Network can help you to get the government supervising the people that are managing your compulsory superannuation contributions. If you don't do that, you could be in trouble. The very last thing you need when you call on your superannuation is to find out that it's disappeared into thin air because the companies in which you've invested have been taking home massive salaries and paying massive contributions to political parties with your money. You need to get in there and make sure that your life is protected. It doesn't matter whether you're a borrower or an investor, you need to take the steps to protect it. If you've got borrowing problems, GBAC is the place to go. If you've got funds invested, then Voters Network is probably the best place for you to do something about it. Thanks for listening. I'll have more topics of interest about government and banking for you to consider. What I'm anxious to do is empower the people of Australia to control their funds and their lives, because frankly a good few of them are being disadvantaged by what's happening now, and it can be relatively easily fixed. Thanks for listening.